Hello YouTube! Today in the Naughty Librarian we are doing my February wrap-up. So I had another very successful month. I read 14 books in February, which is crazy. I was just like marathoning books, like I couldn't stop reading. So yeah, I just like plowed through books. It was bananas. But since I have so many books I need to talk about, let's just get into this wrap-up. First category is urban fantasy, and I read 3 of those this month. I read 2 books by Ilona Andrews. I read Diamond Fire and I read Magic Breaks. Let's just start with Diamond Fire. Technically this is a novella. This is part of the Hidden Legacy series. It follows Catalina Baylor, who is Nevada Baylor's sister, and Catalina is that character that I always had my eye on because her powers are very interesting because essentially she's kind of like a siren. She can make people love her by like imbuing magic into her voice. So like I'm really interested in her as a character because if she has this ability, how does she know that like anything is real around her, because she can't tell if she's manipulating people. So she has like a juicy story like to get into, so I really want to see this. And as always, it brought like the action, the laughs, the crime solving. It's a fun little novella. I also read Magic Breaks, which is book 7 of the Kate Daniels series, and whew, this one was a doozy. It kind of reads like it's the finale, but it's not the finale. I know there's 3 more books, but the way it kind of closes a big chapter of the overarching storyline was fascinating. So I'm like, where do you go from here? You just closed that storyline out. I guess there's more story that could be expanded upon from that main arc, but that part's over. Like the whole main arc is Kate and her father, who's like a big bad guy, gonna have this big showdown. And what's gonna happen? And you know, slight spoiler, the showdown happens in book 7. And yeah, so I'm just like, oh my gosh, I waited so long for that, and it finally happens. It's a doozy of a story. Like a lot happens here, and it's very dramatic. There is great action. There is crime solving. There's a murder mystery in this one. I can't like, with everything's a spoiler. Everything is a spoiler if I tell you things, because it's so far into the series. Just trust me, like a lot of shit goes down, and I liked it. I'm using the term urban fantasy loosely here, but I did read Solace by Gail Carriger. It's like historical urban fantasy, because it reads like an urban fantasy, it just happens to be also in Victorian era England. This is a story about Alexia, and she is a woman who is soulless. So basically, in this world, the supernatural creatures basically have an overabundance of soul. That's where their magic comes from. So like werewolves, vampires, I assume witches and stuff, they have an overabundance of soul. Alexia is soulless, so it means she has like a void of souls. If she touches like a supernatural creature, like she negates their powers. She makes them human again somehow. So she's kind of unique in this little demi-monde that she resides in. Then there's Connell, who is a lord, and he is a Scottish werewolf because obviously werewolves are always Scottish. And I like live for it. I love it. I would never want a werewolf to not be Scottish. And honestly, like Connell, he's kind of like if Mr. Darcy from Pride and Prejudice was also a werewolf detective. That's the best way to describe that. Actually, that's a good way to describe the whole book. Like if Jane Austen wrote about paranormal creatures and like got like way smuttier, it would be like a fair assessment. I gave it 4 stars. Like I do find it very good. I don't know if it's necessarily like the book for me though. Because while I appreciate Jane Austen pithiness, it's not something I can like sustain myself on. Because I feel like my brain starts to wander too quickly, so this is just my own personality quirk, and it's nothing against the author or Jane Austen or any of books like that. It's just my mind wanders. It's how it is. It's fun. It was a fun book. It was a fun book. It's not necessarily a series that I see myself rushing to continue. Like, I might continue it, but if I don't continue the series, this has like a well-rounded ending that like if I didn't read any more books, I wouldn't feel like I'm missing part of the story. So like, if you just, you know, if you're a one and done kind of person, this could suffice. Next category is epic fantasy, and I also read 3 of those. I don't know why I waited so long to read the Six of Crows duology, but I finally finished it this month. I read Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. It's so freaking good. Like, I just have like a million boners for it, and so it's like a completely biased review right now just because I love it so much. Genuinely, I am obsessed with Kaz Brekker. He's one of my all-time favorite characters of anything ever. I am so obsessed with Kaz Brekker that I went to a Leigh Bardugo signing and I dressed up like Kaz Brekker. Like, I cosplayed. Like, I got into it. I live for Kaz. He's just this wonderful, black-hearted SOB. And, like, he's everything. So, yeah, basically, I'm hella biased on this. I'm obsessed. And the thing about Kaz in particular, yes, he is a criminal mastermind with a black little heart, but you know what? He's surprisingly good boyfriend material. I'll explain. Is he morally gray? Totally. Is he a criminal mastermind? Yep, that too. Kaz is particularly good boyfriend material because, sorry, slight spoilers right here, he gets Inej's revenge on her enemies, he finds her long-lost parents, he buys her a boat, he, like, believed in her when no one else did and taught her everything she knows, so it's just like, what more could you want out of a boyfriend? Like, he's dope. Surprisingly good boyfriend material, but an evil genius. So, like, I don't know how I feel about him. Like, I know I shouldn't want to date him, but, like, part of me's just like, I could do worse. Okay, I'm done. I'm just gonna, like, have a million boners for Kaz, but I love this series. I also read Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. I'm continuing the Throne of Glass series. This is a dense, thick book. A lot happens in it. It's hard to review when so freaking much happens in it. I think one of the biggest things I took out of it was holy sexual tension, Batman. Oh my gosh. Selena / Aelin is out on her own, and she meets Rowan, who is now, like, kind of her sensei. And also, they grow in friendship, and there's so much sexual tension that it's bananas. Like, you could cut it with a knife, it's so thick. Girl. Like, the books have been out for long enough, and there's been so many spoilers everywhere I've looked that I know they get together. But, like, damn, like, you laid that foundation thick. Like, it's earthquake proof. Like, that's a thick foundation of sexual tension. Also, there's dragons in this one. I didn't know there was dragons in the series. So I was all of a sudden, I was like, wait. There's also dragons? Okay, I'm in. They also introduced some new characters. There is a character named Manon, who I know is, like, a very important character in the series. Because, again, the internet exists. I've seen things. However, like, if I didn't know anything about the series just from, like, the internet, I'm genuinely confused why the Manon chapters were in the book, because they don't really have anything to do with anything else that's happening. Like, it felt weird that she was tossed in this early, in my opinion. Like, I know all this stuff is probably important going into the next book, but it was just, like, it was so, like, turned out of left field. It's like, wait, why are we, like, paying attention to this woman who has nothing to do with all of these other characters that we've been following for so long? So that kind of felt weird at times. There's a lot of perspective switches, which was bothering me because I just wanted to be in Aelin's head. I wanted to be Selena / Aelin's, like, I wanted to be on that train, and, like, it kept getting off the train. And then, because epic fantasies love to do this, it gives you one good gut punch at the end, and they hurt one of my little cinnamon rolls of a character. They hurt him bad. They did him real dirty. Like, psychological stink eyes are going to this woman right now, because what they did to this character, like, I can't with it. Shit is, like, really messed up at the end of this book. Like, shit's gonna go down. Like, it's at a precipice of, like, all hell breaking loose, and, like, I don't know what to do with my life. Like, so I liked this book, it basically is what I was saying. I also read Kingdom of the Blazing Phoenix by Julie C. Dow. This was such an anticipated read for me. I absolutely loved Force of a Thousand Lanterns. So when there's going to be a sequel to it, I was like, done. I'm in forever. Give it to me now. Now, the thing is, if I'm going to be really blunt and honest, I did not like this much. And it's not necessarily the author's fault, because she still has that lyrical writing style, and it's an incredible, like, world she built. It's basically kind of a Snow White retelling, but set in ancient fictional China. And it's really interesting how she sets everything up. And the things that I loved so much about Forest of a Thousand Lanterns are completely missing from this book. And that's because Forest of a Thousand Lanterns is about the evil queen and her origin tale and that really complex, morally gray character. This one is following Jade, who is like the stand-in for Snow White. Now, in any Snow White retelling, I'm gonna go so far as to say probably the least interesting character in the retelling is Snow White, because she has a set list of characteristics she has to have to be the Snow White character. And it's just like reading about someone who's so true at heart and doesn't really have very much moral ambiguity at all. And, you know, she wasn't as complex, nearly as complex as Shifeng was in the first book. And in fact, there's like one chapter in here that's from Shifeng's point of view, and honestly, it's the best chapter of the book. Like, I was like, oh no, the only chapter I thought was incredible wasn't even about Jade. So I was like, ah. The fantasy elements are incredible, the world building's incredible, the lyrical writing's incredible, it's just the character herself is just dull. Like, so, you know, I think she did the best she could with the character source material that was possible. The thing is, like, Snow White's just a boring character, so this one wasn't as good for me. However, doesn't sour me on Julie C. Dowd, because she still wrote really well, so I would definitely read more books from her. This one was just disappointing a bit. Next category is teen angst, and I read 2 books about it. I read The Darkest Star by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Objectively speaking, if I wasn't me with my own specific personality quirks and taste and likes and dislikes, would I objectively think this is a good book? The answer is probably not. Like, it's probably not objectively good. However, I am me, and I will never not live for teen alien melodrama. Like, that's always going to be my thing, so I freaking loved it. But fair warning, this is a spin-off series from Jennifer Armentrout's Lux series. Basic gist, there are this race of aliens called Luxon, and they've been living on Earth for a really long time, and then towards the end of that series, all the rest of the Luxons that weren't living on Earth invade, and there's this big war. So this happens, like, I think 5 years after the war is over. So the world is a very different place. Everyone knows Luxons are real. What do you do with them now that they're here? Because they got powers and shit. We're following Luke, who was a character in the first arc of the series, and he was like 13 or so there. He was like the leader of the preteen mafia. Someone like referred to him in that series. And we're following him and a character named Evie. And Evie's an interesting character, kind of. Like, she's kind of generic YA heroine, but, like, I don't mind because I love the melodrama. I mean, I was a kid who grew up watching Roswell, like, religiously. Teen alien melodrama is, like, my jam, and this gave me all of the teen alien melodrama I could ever want. Like, if you just want something, like, juicy, you want, like, teen aliens CW show, like, this is it. Like, look no further. I also read Ship It by Britta London. I'm having a hard time, like, gathering my thoughts about it, because did I enjoy it? Yes. I gave it, like, 4 stars. It's good, objectively. Is it a story that's really gonna stick with me for a long time? Probably not. It's a fun, fluffy read, and it's great if you just want, like, a cool contemporary that's kind of based in fandom and fanfic and sci-fi shows and, like, all of that Comic-Con goodness. If you're into that, you want to read a story about a girl navigating that world, this is it. This is your book. It's about Claire, who's obsessed with this TV show, and she writes /fic about it. You kind of see her growing as the story progresses because she's trying to figure out her sexuality, and I kind of appreciated that it was different from the perspective that this isn't a character who knows they're gay or knows they're bi or knows they're straight. She doesn't know what the hell she is. She's just like, I don't know what I like. Like, so I kind of appreciated the journey of her trying to figure out what is she into? Like, who does she like? I don't know. She doesn't know, really. And it kind of, like, explains the /fic a bit, like, how she's really pushing that because you think she's trying to come to terms with things in her own life. So, yeah, it's well written, and it's fun, and it's a good book. It's just, like, if I'm being honest, like, I'm not gonna keep thinking about it forever from time to time. Like, it was fun, but, like, you know, it's like a single serving book. Like, it was fun while it lasted, and I could move on. Next category is romance, and I read 2 of them this month. My official Valentine's Day pick was Stripped by Zoe Castile. It's just basically, I was looking for a book that's like a legit snack, and I saw this, and I was like, done. That's it. It's basically Magic Mike. I'll admit that it took me a long time to really get into the story, because for a lot of it, it's just kind of generic rom-com-y kind of stuff, and you're like, okay, whatever. None of these characters are very special. In fact, they're both just hot messes, and it's just like, you can only read about a hot mess for so long before they're just annoying. So it did take me a long time to get into it. And then, slight spoiler, there is a scene where Fallon dances for Robin, because he's a male stripper. He dances for Robin, and he gets a boner on stage, and like, I legit went, boner! Like, full fist thrust, I yelled boner, you know, like a creep. But honestly, that was the turning point in the book that made me like really root for their romance. Who knew a random boner would get me like this invested in their relationship? Yeah, I don't really have more to say besides I'm a creep, and I literally exclaimed boner out loud in public. I was reading this not in my home, like I was in the world. I was that lady that day. I also picked up Sweet Little Lies by Jill Shalvis. This, again, fluffy rom-com. Although this one wasn't necessarily as funny as it was dramatic, and there's parts of it that are just like, girl, what are you doing? Just spit it out. Like, spit it out. There's basically a big secret that's looming over this like budding relationship, and it's just like, just tell him. Just tell him. You have so many opportunities, just tell him before he pulls off his pants. Like, just say it, just say it, just say it. And she never says it, and obviously it blows up in her face, because that's how rom-coms go. But it ends in a happy way, because that's how rom-coms go. If you want like a fluffy rom-com that's like a perfect palate cleanser, because honestly, I read this after Heir of Fire, and I needed it, because Heir of Fire was so draining emotionally that I just wanted something light and fluffy, and this is like light and fluffy to a T. Also sufficiently smutty, so it's a great little fun romance. It's quick read. I recommend. It's a wonderful, wonderful piece of book candy palette cleanser. Recommend. Next category is Blackathon. Blackathon was a month-long reading Athon, and it was hosted by Francina Simone, Jessie from Bowties and Books, and Lauren from the Novel Lush. And there's a bunch of different categories, and I wanted to participate, so I read 3 books for Blackathon. So here's the thing about Brandy Colbert. I really appreciate her as an author because she does this one really subtle thing with her characters that I don't see a lot. And it's maybe just I'm a connoisseur of stories, but it's like a subtle difference in characterization that really makes a difference. You know, you read stories where a character just does something stupid for no reason, obviously just to further the plot, and you're like, why? That makes no sense. In Brandy Colbert stories, yes, her characters are messy and they make bad decisions sometimes, but those bad decisions make logical sense. Like, I always understand why the character made a bad decision. Like, it's so subtle. Like, it's hard to explain the difference besides this is a bad decision to further the plot, or it's a bad decision that the character obviously would make because that makes sense for the character. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, these aren't like furthering the plot idiocy. Like, this is like idiocy with a reason. This is about Athon. She is a young woman and she has played violin her whole life, and she's like, this is my ticket, I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna play violin, that's what I'm gonna do. And she's starting to realize, I don't like violin and I'm maybe not that good at it. Her life kind of just like falls apart a bit because she's just a very lonely character. Her mom left when she was a kid. She's left with her dad, who is a brilliant chef but emotionally unavailable. So she's alone a lot of the times, and her loneliness kind of explains why maybe she looks to assuage that in the wrong places. There's a lot of like psychology here that makes sense to her character. And you know what? Sometimes she makes bad decisions. And I mean, it says it in the blurb on the back, so this isn't a spoiler. She does end up pregnant, and it's kind of about finding herself. Like, what is she supposed to do with her life now? Like, her whole life has changed in a short amount of time. What do you do? The characterization is on point. I also read Forbidden by Beverly Jenkins. Here's the deal. Did I think this was a good book, and is it well written and well thought out and well plotted? Yeah, totally. Beverly Jenkins is awesome. She's been around for a long time. She obviously knows how to write a book. Is it the book for me? Probably not. This is classified as a romance, and if you see a cover that's that suggestive, like the dude is topless, like you expect them to get busy, right? Like, right? I'll tell you right now, these characters never fuck. Like, the whole book. I read the whole book and they never fucked. And it's like, I feel like a pervert for being annoyed that they never did it, but it's just like, no. There's like a shirtless cover and it's a romance. They should have fucked. Like, so I think maybe my expectations were in the wrong place going in. But if this was classified only as historical fiction, would have been an excellent historical fictional novel. Like, I wouldn't have thought like, oh, they're gonna have a forbidden romance and it's gonna be like juicy and hot and like forbidden, you know? And it's not really about that at all. So I felt like misled. That's my expectations not meeting what I thought the book was gonna be. It's not the book's fault that I thought it was gonna be something that it wasn't. That being said, is it good? Yeah, it's great historical fiction. I thought it was really interesting. It deals with the idea of passing. This is in like Restoration era America. So there's a lot of racial tension, obviously. And it's about a guy named Ryan and a woman named Edie. Edie is obviously African American. Ryan is passing for white. He was born to a, his mother was a slave and his father was a plantation owner. No good happened there. Let's leave it at that. So Ryan can pass as white, and he's been like living his life as if he were white, and it allows him to do a lot of good stuff for the black community, but it doesn't make it so he can be with Edie, because Edie is obviously a black woman. So the whole, like, as a lot of the story is about Ryan trying to come to this decision, do I tell everyone I'm black? Or do I keep living as a white person and not get to be with Edie? So I can see like the romance right there, but it's just like, no. If your shirt's off on the cover, you best be fucking, and they never fucked. Like, literally the last chapter of the book is like, well, we did it, bye. And I was like, no. Like, I just had reader blue balls, and it was horrible. But, it was good. Just, if you expected smut, it's not there. It's not there at all. Last book I read for Blackathon was Once Ghosted, Twice Shy by Alyssa Cole. Again, a little novella, but it's fairly long enough that I consider it worth a book. And it's part of the Reluctant Royal series. We're following Lakotsi, who is Prince Thabiso's Girl Friday. She's his assistant. And her lady love that she lost to Fabiola. We heard about Fabiola before in the series, but we never really saw what happened between them. So this book kind of expands upon that, and is told in two time periods, the original relationship and the rekindling relationship. And honestly, Lakotzi's very kind of boss lady in the books, but I'm like, dang, Lakotsi, you a panty dropper. Like, like, I didn't know she had so much game. I was like, oh my. Obviously from the cover, this is an FF romance, but like, dang, Lakotsi, you're gonna make some panties drop. Like, it's good. It actually kind of starts to delve into some real issues. Like, it kind of gets into immigration and deportation a little bit. I appreciate the fact that they even bring it up at all, because a lot of books just don't talk about it, and it's a big part of our culture right now. So yeah, it's an interesting little book. It's fun, it's sexy, it's has some good juicy topics in it, and it's a good FF romance. I liked it. Last category is Wicked Spirits Book Club. The last book I read was Certain Dark Things by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This was the book of the month for the Wicked Spirits Book Club, and that is a book club hosted by myself, Brandy from Brandy Janae's Bookshelf, and Lauren from the Novelush. I'll link them down below. Every month we pick a book and then we do a live show. So follow us, and I'm not going to get into it too much because we are going to be doing a live show on March 10th. We're still figuring out the time because our work schedules and our life schedules are like all out of whack, but it's going to be on March 10th. Follow us on Twitter. We'll tell you the exact time. We're at Book Spirits. Anyway, Certain Dark Things. Did I like it? Yeah. It takes place in Mexico City, and there's all these different races of vampires, and they've kind of formed cartels, essentially. The world building is so cool to like think about, and like there's so much you can go on there. All these different breeds of vampires. Like, it's really cool and thought out. But, like, I never got to know the characters. That's my quick little spiel about it, just in case you missed the live show. Woo! I feel like I've been talking for so long. Like, so long. But, I mean, it's 14 books, so, like, that's, like, a fair amount of books to talk about. Anyway, let me know in the comments down below. Have you read any of these books? If so, which ones are your favorites? Which ones are your least favorites? Let me know down below. Also, let me know if you're a member of the Wicked Spirits Book Club. You should totally be a member. We read good books. It's an urban fantasy / maybe paranormal romance book club. We read cool stuff. We do cool live chats. You should all join it. It's going to be amazing. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. And if you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe. And I'll see you guys soon.